What is up, people? It is me, Monster58. Welcome back to another video review, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Prowl. Actually, a Target and/or Hasbro Pulse exclusive this time around, so that's where you're going to be able to get this. Obviously, we'll talk about that later in the video, but here we do have Prowl. This is obviously more or less just a slight retool. Well, not even a retool. It's just like a repaint of the original Earthrise mold that we got many, many years back at this point. So did they nail it this time? Well, we'll find out here in this review. So take a look at the box here. You can see the nice artwork of Prowl in his robot mode as well as in his Nissan Fairlady Z mode. Then you can see the nice Transformers. You can see the Studio Series, the Transformers the movie, MTE collection, Prowl. You can see that right there. Transformers in 15 steps. Some more nice artwork here on the side. More nice artwork here on the side with the Transformers 40th logo right there. And then your obligatory product shots on the back. And so when it comes to the packaging, I think that they did a good job as per usual, folks. And so without further ado, alrighty, folks, here we have the Transformers Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Prowl in his Nissan Fairlady Z mode. And guys, I gotta say, he does look really, really nice. The changes that they made from the Earthrise one to this one are definitely more cartoon accurate, especially when it comes to the paint scheme. It's basically like they did with that Autobot 5-pack that came out not too long ago, where they released Hound, Jazz, Trailbreaker, Wheeljack, and Sunstreaker, I believe, in that pack in general. And so when it came to that pack, they did the same thing where they kind of, gave blue windows. They ended up, sort of flattening out the paint. They gave it the more cartoon accurate paint schemes and everything like that. And so that's no different here. So what I'm going to do, because we're going to compare it to the Earthrise version, because that's what everyone's going to be comparing it to, I'm going to set this guy off to the side here, and we're going to bring in the Earthrise one. Alrighty, folks, so here's the Earthrise one. And so when it comes to the Earthrise one, you can see the major differences really are going to be like the decos here. The color of the wheels is different because they're silver instead of black. You can obviously also see the windows are completely different as well. The unfortunate bit about the new one is that the taillights aren't painted, which is a bit of a shame, and neither is this black bit, which I actually would have been perfectly fine with. In addition to that, you can see on the top of the vehicles, we'll remove the guns, which, by the way, the only major difference between these is the type of white that they use. You can see this is the Earthrise one, which is definitely more of this cream white, and then this is much more of this bright white. It's kind of hard to see with my lighting, but you can kind of see that here in the camera. At least I can see it. I hope you guys can too. So we'll set those off to the side. But you can see here on the top, this part's black, this part's white here for the center of the light bar as well. But for the most part, all of the other differences, there's really not that much. It's just all cosmetic at this point. There's no actual physical molded differences between these two figures. You can see here on the bottom, it's still the same. Again, this is, you'll see in the robot mode, these are a bit different. So this is black for the Earthrise one. These are like this gray color for the new Studio Series 86 one. This is one that I kind of think that when it comes to this mold, very similar to what just got revealed at San Diego Comic-Con, like literally a couple of days ago with the new Red Alert mold that's coming out. I genuinely think which is also going to be a Sideswipe mold, because they're obviously going to just retool it and repaint it a bit into Sideswipe. I really think that this is a mold that could use like an update like that, and I kind of hope in a way that they do, because at the end of the day, even though that this mold still is a really good representation of the character, at the end of the day, I still think that they're ever so slightly missing the mark. Maybe I'm wrong with that. Maybe other people think the same, but I wouldn't mind seeing what they could do for an update for a mold like this and make an entirely new one. But again, that may be just me. But yeah, here are the major differences. Again, this is absolutely more cartoon accurate, this new Studio Series 86 one, and this is the Earthrise one, which is still a great representation of Prowl, but definitely a bit more on the realistic side of things rather than the actual cartoon itself. But we're going to set this guy off to the side, and we're going to actually look at the details of this guy. So you can see, obviously, the shield here. This is how it was in the actual cartoon, the side of the car. The headlights are obviously nicely painted blue. You can see the Autobot logo there, the nice little striping here on the front bumper. Just looks good all around. Again, I just wish that the taillights were painted, but you can see details all around, not too bad. Obviously, it's kind of annoying to see the mushroom pegs in there for the wheels, but that does mean he rolls decently well. And mine doesn't still roll the best because this mold didn't already roll the best because of the clearances, particularly with the wheels and stuff like that. But for the most part, still solid all around. Like, I have no major complaints when it comes to this mold in the terms of his vehicle mode, because he looks really, really good. So what we're going to do is set this guy up to the side here. We're going to do a size comparison. Alrighty, folks, here we have him with the Transformers Legacy United Infernac Universe Deluxe Class Magnus. As you can see, when these two look pretty solid together, obviously they have no connection to each other as characters whatsoever, but at the end of the day, if you're looking for an average size deluxe figure, this is what you're going to get. I usually always try to compare this guy when we're doing some of the bigger reviews and stuff like that, which absolutely the next one's going to be quite an important review. But at the end of the day, yeah, average deluxe size figure, have no major complaints with the size whatsoever. He fits with his Autobot brethren as well as the other Decepticons, obviously, if you want to match him up with those. Alrighty, guys, in time for the transformation. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. We've seen this mold a gazillion times at this point, from the countless amount of repaints to the countless amount of prowls and, blue streaks and smoke screens, right? We've seen this mold be reused so much over the years, and this mold has been around for such a long time that I honestly don't feel the need to show you the transformation, even though I've never formally reviewed this mold on my channel, if I'm not mistaken. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to bother showing the transformation. You can find the transformation for this mold pretty much anywhere that you look online, whether it's MGO, whether it's another reviewer, because I just listed off MGO because MGO has his Just Transform It series. But you guys get what I'm saying. At the end of the day, you can find those transformations online. I'm not going to bother showing it to you here because I think more or less we're just trying to compare it to the Earthrise one, so might as well just do that. So what we're going to do is we are going to take Prowl from looking like this in his vehicle mode and into this in his robot mode. And first off, what we're going to do is we're going to put him off to the side here, and we're going to put the G1 model as he appeared in the actual cartoon. And when we're taking a look at it, he looks pretty damn good. They did make a nice amount of changes to this guy, but there's one stupid thing that they still haven't changed with this guy that I don't understand why it's such a hassle for them to do so, because I genuinely do not see why it's such a pain. But so what I'm going to do to illustrate that is we're going to bring in the Earthrise one. Alrighty, folks, so here's the Earthrise one. You can see some major differences. Obviously, there's a little bit of gray here on the bumper that you couldn't see in the front. That wasn't on the Earthrise one. You can see the legs and this, the crotch section are definitely different here. This has a little bit more paint detail in it compared to the Earthrise one. Obviously, also the transparent windows versus these painted ones. And obviously, you can see the differences here on the feet as well. But the major thing that I don't get what they are still doing over there and why they can't get it right, they are still using the damned blue streak head. If you don't know the differences, I'll just show you the box. As you can see, they have that square in their head. Both of them do. Look at Prowl's head in the thing. As this part. You can see that is not this. And so I know it's such a small detail, but when you've done this mold 8,000 times, the only two who have gotten their heads right are Blue Streak and Smokescreen, because Smokescreen has an entirely different head sculpt. Blue Streak has that big square, and then Prowl has the three little lines above his head instead of that big box that Blue Streak does. But for some reason, they just don't want to make a new head for Prowl. And that's why I'm still like, I know it's such a small detail, but it's something I'm going to complain about because they've used this mold so many times. You think when they're making it for Studio Series 86 that they would just nail it this time, but for some reason they aren't. But whatever, I guess, So, take a look at the actual figure here. We're going to, do a little more comparison. You can see, obviously, the wheels are a bit different. You can see the gray instead of the black. They still have that same hollowness here in the legs, but it's nice to not have that transparent plastic. And it's truly not transparent. It's not just not transparent painted. It's genuinely not transparent, and that's really, really nice. So, this should last a lot longer. And I'll tell you this much. Transforming this guy definitely feels a lot more cumbersome than transforming this guy. The Earthrise one, because this clearance for like his legs is really kind of like not good. It does not feel good, and I feel like I'm going to snap this thing. But at the end of the day, it depends on which look you prefer the most. I still prefer the cartoon look. I know more other people will prefer the Earthrise look that he's given here. But either way, I think both are great representations of the character, but absolutely the new Studio Series 86 one is better at that, but still not perfect at it. So, get this guy out of here. So, I do have an issue with this robot mode, and it's more having to sort of do with the articulation, I guess, so we'll do it when we get into that. But take a look at the head sculpt here. It still looks good. It's just not the correct head sculpt. That is not Prowl. That is Blue Streak. That's white instead of gray. But at the end of the day, it still looks good. The nice blue for the eyes. Let me see if I can... blue for the eyes, nice gray for the face, the nice, molded in detail and everything like that. Again, he still does look very, very nice. I do like how a lot more of the detail shows up here because there's no color separation with the Earthrise one. It's kind of hard to see all the details in that crotch section, but here because they made it more cartoon accurate, you can absolutely see more of that detail. The red, little triangle on his crotch is actually really nice and helps break up all that black and that gray. But looks good all around. Again, there's hollowness here, but he cleans up very, very well. This is a really good mold. Again, I just really wish that they had gotten the head correct, because if they got the head correct, then this would basically be the Prowl I would have on display, unless they decided, like I said earlier in the review, to do sort of like a refresh of this character in a new mold. But other than that, he does look really, really solid. Again, just the damned head. So what we're going to do is we're going to set him off to the side, and I'll just bring in Magnus here so you guys can see the actual average size of this guy. Alright folks, here he is with the Transformers Legacy United Infernac Universe Deluxe class Magnus. As you can see, Magnus is actually a tad bit shorter when it comes to the Deluxe size in his robot mode. But still, Prowl, when we're talking about Carbots, I will say I do think of Sideswipe and Sunstreaker more when I think about Carbots than the actual three brothers of Smokescreen, Prowl, and Bluestreak. But that doesn't mean that Prowl obviously isn't an important character. He was very prevalent in the original cartoon. But regardless, I am very fine with the average size. This is how I think a Carbot should scale, especially when you look at him in comparison to like Optimus Prime and stuff like that. I really think that he just kind of fits that size really, really nicely. And he does look really, really good still. Again, just that stupid damned head that they didn't get correct this time around still. Alrighty folks, time for his articulation, and it's pretty solid. It still holds up to this day relatively well. So, head is on the ball joint, so you can do a full 360. You can look up and down like so. You can do a little bit of side to side, which is pretty nice. If you move the doors here, that angle in and out, you can get a full 360 here at the shoulders. You can go out, you can go in. You have another joint here for the transformation as well. Then you have a rotation here at the upper part of the bicep. You have a little more than 90 here at the elbow, and then you do have wrist articulation, which is actually pretty nice. So I do enjoy that. Now, my major issue with this figure in his robot mode besides his head is really his waist, because for some reason, even though that this is perfectly fine, the actual joint itself feels fine. For some reason, look at this. Hold on. Why can I just do that? I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I've transformed this guy in the past few days, and he just splits in half because for some reason the actual peg that connects the waist to this upper half of his body is, super loose, and I don't know why, because everything else is much tighter. Like these joints here, especially in comparison to the Earthrise one, are much tighter in comparison. So forward, back, more than 90 at the knee, way more than 90. Rotation the upper part of the thigh, and then he has a nice ankle rocker pivot. But look at that, like, why is it so easy to do that? Of all the things, because when you're looking, I'll even bring in the Earthrise one so you can see the difference. Like, look how it just feels like look, there's no effort I need to just move this, and it's quite a shame for the Earthrise one. But for this guy, I'm putting the same amount of force in their much tighter joints. So I can respect them for doing that, but again, why is it the waist joint is messed up like that? I don't know if you guys have that issue with this figure. If you have it right now, I'd love to hear it in the comments below if you're experiencing the same thing. I haven't watched many, if any, reviews. I actually haven't watched any videos on this guy, but I thought I'd mention that here. So when it comes to the articulation, it's still really solid. Again, obviously the hollowness of the legs kind of sucks, but for the most part, it still holds up to this day. I would just, again, very much question what they would do if they were to do like a Red Alert and Sideswipe style mold refresh on a figure and a character like this. Alrighty folks, in time for the reverse transformation. Now, just like I told you with the original transformation from vehicle to robot, we're not going to do that transformation from robot to vehicle. At the end of the day, like I said, there have been so many iterations of this figure that there's 1,000 different videos online that show you how to transform this guy. This is a figure that doesn't have a complicated transformation. It's very standard Carbot. So at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not going to bother showing it, even though I haven't formally reviewed this figure on my channel. And so at the end of the day, we are going to take Prowl from looking like this in his robot mode and back into this in his vehicle mode. And so guys, for my final concluding thoughts on the Transformers Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Prowl, who is a Target and or Hasbro Pulse exclusive, this guy is pretty solid. At the end of the day, they still just didn't nail this guy correctly. Again, the two major issues that I do have with this guy, well, there's a couple. I'll say the minor issue is definitely the hollowness in the legs. At the end of the day, that is kind of made up for in the fact that he has wicked knee articulation, so I do like that. But the other two issues, for some reason, even though that the joints on this mold are definitely tighter, for some reason the connection for my copy for the waist is just super loose. Like the actual waist joint itself is not loose, but the connection point is. It's really confusing how to describe that, but that's the best way I can describe it. And the other thing, why do we still using the Blue Streak head? Why? Like, you're making this Studio Series 86. This is supposed to be accurate. I get that it's cheaper, but is it really that much more money to make a new head sculpt with 3 lines instead of the box on his head? Like, on his forehead? To me, it's like, why would we just not do that so that we actually get the accurate Prowl? But whatever. It's not the biggest deal because their head sculpts are so similar, but it's one of those small details that when we've seen this mold 8,000 times, you think that the 8,000th time that they would release this mold that they would get it right. But again, whatever, I guess. But there's still a lot of good. They definitely made the vehicle mode much more accurate to the actual cartoon model itself, with the blue shield on the side, the blue painted windows, and the fact that they aren't transparent plastic is really, really nice. I just wish that the taillights were painted, as well as that little back part on the bumper. That was also, I wish it was black, just like it was on the Earthrise one. Just give it a little more contrast, a little more detail. The gun is fine. It's just the storage is stupid. Just like any gun storage on most carbots tends to always be stupid. Transformation is very standard carbot, so no complaints there. And then finally, when you get into his robot mode, again, the only major issue that I have is the head. But other than that, he still does look great and represents the character very beautifully. And I do really like that the new paint in the crotch area definitely helps break it all up, gives it a little more color separation. The red triangle is a nice touch to be able to get some more, color separation in the actual all that black. So you get a lot more of that detail that comes out in those areas. And in general, he just feels much more better to handle than the Earthrise one. And that also may be a product of my Earthrise figure and pretty much everyone's Earthrise Prowl figure being relatively old at this point, almost 10 years old. But at the same time, you think that just leaving it on the shelf and not really transforming it over the years would have maybe not has degraded the mold. So I assume that maybe it's just the Earthrise mold that was that loose at the end of the day, but I could be wrong about that. Who knows? I'd like to know about if you guys have your Prowls, if your Prowls are also suffering that level of, Earthrise Prowls, if they're suffering that level of looseness, or if they were already loose to begin with. A lot to unpack there, but nothing that I'm going to get into a big discussion about right now. So for a score out of a 10, we give this guy an 8 still. He would be a 9 if his head sculpt was actually correct. If his head sculpt was correct, he'd get a 9. But the fact that he still isn't, after so many iterations of this mold, I'm giving him an 8. Still a great figure, still great articulation, still great paint. Nice details that they changed from the Earthrise one to this one to make it more cartoon accurate in both in vehicle mode as well as robot mode. I really do like how this guy looks, and he will definitely be replacing my Earthrise one because he's obviously more cartoon accurate, and that is absolutely what I'm after. And so I did pick mine up on Hasbro Pulse. You can pick him up on Target if you get lucky. I will try to leave links, but obviously being exclusive. The reason I'm not getting mad at this guy being an exclusive to Target at the very least right now is because when it comes to this character, I imagine that this is a character that won't really sell out all that much, especially when you compare him to the other character that's in this wave, which is Starscream for the exclusive. I really do think that this guy will still be pretty readily available. I'm sure you can find this guy online pretty easily. Again, I'll see if I can find links, but it should still be okay. I think he's still available on Pulse anyway, so if you do wish to pick up a more accurate Prowl, this is absolutely your opportunity to do so. Would highly recommend doing it in that way. But if you already have the Earthrise one, I wouldn't necessarily, tell you no, tell you to go out and buy this right away because again, there's aesthetic differences that you could prefer with the Earthrise one over this one. I just prefer this one because of the cartoon accuracy, but you could prefer the Earthrise one because you like the more realistic paint scheme to real life, right? So I definitely understand in that respect. So would I recommend this figure? If you don't have the Earthrise Prowl and you wish to get your Prowl like the most accurate one that we've gotten in the main line, this is by far the most accurate one we've gotten in the main line. Just be wary of the few issues that I've had with it, and you should be okay with picking this guy up. But I wouldn't necessarily drop everything to go and pick this guy up because I think he'll be readily available for a while now. So, for a while going forward, excuse me. And so that's really it for the review. So I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Also, follow me in the socials. Those will be linked in the description below. And with that, guys, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video review, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.